bookish lovelies, Kira here, and today I am going to be discussing what I'm going to be reading in August. As I am putting this up, I know we are already a few days into August. I have yet to finish anything, but I am in the middle of a couple books right now that I will be talking about as a standalone review. Mainly the book that I'm talking about is I'm currently in the middle of Hunting Prince Dracula, and I already have so many historical references in this that are just making my inner vamp girl squeal. I cannot wait to review this book. I am only 150 pages into this currently, and I am absolutely loving this. This is making me so happy. I just love this series so far. So disappointed that I hopped on this hype train just before the last book comes out. So good though. Next book that I'm going to be reading is, I'm currently about 50 pages into, is Radio Silence by Alice Oseman. This is a book that's been floating around. It is a YA contemporary. It is very popular on the booktube community, and I have been wanting to read it for quite a while. I don't know how long it's going to take me. I know I started it and I really love it so far, and I'm only 50 pages in, like I said, but I really am enjoying it, so I really hope to get through this the rest of the way. But I kind of got distracted by Hunting Prince Dracula, so I'm still in the midst of reading it. But this is really good so far. Oh, this is the dust jacket for Radio Silence. I actually have the older dust jacket in anticipation of the next book that's going to be coming out in September, because Capturing the Devil is coming out in September. I also hope to be getting through Escaping from Houdini, which is going to be another book that I'm going to probably absolutely love. The thing about this is I don't know nearly as much about Houdini, so I'm probably going to go and start researching stuff about Houdini just to see the historical consistencies. I'm less familiar with Houdini than I am with the Jack the Ripper cases and vampire lore, so I'm really kind of curious to see, because she's done such a great job with all of the lore and stuff from the previous two books. So I'm really excited to see what she's going to be doing with Houdini in this book. I'm so very excited to continue on with the series. And you know what makes me happy? Each one of these books is thicker than Stalking Jack the Ripper, and I love that, because it gives me more material, it gives me more time with these characters, and I'm just craving that time with these characters, so I don't even care. They can make these books 600 pages long, and I would still be extremely happy with it. So, the next book that I'm going to be reading is Lady Smoke. This is a sequel to Ash Princess. Ash Princess was a book that I saw Elliot Brooks review on her channel, and I actually was almost completely convinced on not reading it before I saw her rave about it. I'm really glad that I ended up reading it, because it was a lot better than what I thought it was going to be. It's all about this princess. She had her kingdom taken from her, it was conquered, and she was pretty much the only royal that they left alive, and they left her alive in order to make an example out of her. Every time they have a banquet or a ball, she gets dolled up really nice, but then they send her a crown made of ashes, and the ashes throughout the night get sprinkled on her, and she's just covered in soot. They do it to make an example out of her, to keep her submissive. But there's kind of a little bit of an underlying magic system here having to do with gemstones. Each gemstone is something that these people respond to, and her mother liked the red gemstones, and the gemstones allowed her to have these fire capabilities. Now, the first book didn't really have a ton of that because her people were oppressed, but I'm kind of thinking that this is probably going to have a bit more of that magic system in it, and I'm really excited for that, because honestly, that book was really well laid out. But this is not a review, this is not a wrap-up. I'm going to be talking more about that book in my wrap-up. I'm really excited for this one because I really devoured Ash Princess. Another book that I read last month was Strange the Dreamer, so I'm planning on getting into Muse of Nightmares this month. I really liked Strange the Dreamer, and it really is one of those books that I feel like is going to end up sticking with me. So I'm really curious to see how it ends, because they did kind of leave it on a bit of a cliffhanger. It's very beautiful, it's very whimsical, and I really love whimsy. So this is going to be very interesting. It's about this guy that actually goes, and he is been obsessed with the city of Weep since he was a kid. When he was a kid, he was a monk, and then he spent a couple days in the library, and one of the scholars found him and said, well, after a couple of days, when a boy gets lost in the library, we tend to adopt these boys that get lost here. And so he ended up getting adopted by the scholar, so he had all of these fairy tales to read, and he was very much into fairy tales. And of course, he was kind of a laughing stock as far as the scholars and the other librarians go, because he always had his head in the clouds. He was always dreaming of the future and dreaming of Weep. And he did tons and tons of research on Weep. And one day, the soldiers from Weep show up, and it was like a dream come true. And there's so many things like that are facing him that could potentially wreck his dream. But what I loved about the series was like the fact that it was exploring dreams. Once again, not a wrap up. This is just my TBR, but I'm telling you like why I'm really excited to be getting back into these books. So we'll be reading that as well. Another book that I'm planning on reading is The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. I've heard nothing but amazing things about this book. I've had this book on my TBR shelf for quite a while, and I am so excited to be getting into it. I hope I love it as much as everybody else does, because it seems like this is such a popular book that I'm really hoped like that I'm not going to be like overreaching because of all the hype that this is circulating. I just know that a lot of people love it, so I'm really hoping that I love it too. It's supposed to be, I believe, about like these two magicians, like they're kind of like warring, like one male, one female, and then there's kind of a romance set in there somewhere too. I'm probably going to be taking some serious notes like with this so that I can do like my own response video to this. I'm hoping that I have enough thoughts on this. Also, this month is going to be another month where they have the Taylor Jenkins read-along, and so the next book in that is going to be Maybe in Another Life by Taylor Jenkins Reid. The Taylor Jenkins read-along actually has us reading all of the books that Taylor Jenkins Reid has published in publication order. And so this one's actually about a girl who's in limbo. She's already graduated college, from what I understand. She's just trying to figure out what the next step is of her life. And she's trying to figure out like what she's going to do with herself, you know, because she's kind of like in this lull in her life. So I'm really kind of curious about this. I've heard a lot of mixed reviews about this one, but so far the other two books that I've read by her, like I love how she frames stuff and I love how she frames concepts. And so I'm really kind of curious to see how she does justice to this concept. Another book that I'm kind of thinking about getting to, and I'm not sure 100% sure I'm going to, I might possibly be doing a buddy read with one of my friends for this, is Till We Have Faces. And this is that retelling of Cupid and Psyche by C.S. Lewis. I love that myth, and I really am curious to see how he explores that myth. And I'm really curious to know like how it's portrayed. So because I read 17 books last month, I'm kind of taking more of a relaxed approach to my reading this month, because in all honesty, I feel very accomplished from how much I read last month, but I do feel a slight bit burnt out from it because I really worked my butt off to get 17 books, and I read more probably last month in July than I have read in pretty much any month that I have ever read books. And you know, last month I actually did have a really good reading month, so I'm hoping to make this a much more relaxed, awesome reading month, because I'm still prepping, I'm working on trying to prep for some of the new releases that we have coming out next month. I'm kind of thinking about also diving into Fangirl, because I still need to read Carry On, because Wayward Son is coming out, I believe, I can't remember, is it September or November? But I know Wayward Son is going to be coming out by Rainbow Rowell, and I really want to dive into that as well, because I've heard so many good things about Carry On. I've heard more mixed reviews about Fangirl than I have with Carry On, but I really want to read them right, which means reading Fangirl first and then Carry On. I think they're going to be awesome, and I'm really hoping that I love them as much as everybody else does, because, you know, like I think that's kind of like a consensus, like that we always hope that we will love things as much as the community does, because we don't want to have a bad read. Like nobody wants to have a bad read. We all hope that we love everything that we pick up, but that's an ideal world. So hopefully I'll end up loving it. Another book that I kind of hope to get to, oh, almost dropped my dust cover. Another book that I kind of hope to get to is Ziggy Stardust and Me. I actually just got this today. I am a huge fan of David Bowie. A few years ago when David Bowie passed away, I was in Atlanta and they had this awesome get together for David Bowie in the big park in Atlanta, Georgia. And it was really, really amazing. Like they kind of like, people brought portable speakers and they were playing David Bowie music. And it was just so reminiscent. And they had signs and they were dressed in David Bowie type outfits. And it was just absolutely incredible and amazing, and I loved the experience. And so I'm a really huge fan of David Bowie, and that's actually what drew me to this book from the get-go, but it was the premise for it. The year is 1973. The Watergate hearings are in full swing, the Vietnam War is still raging, and homosexuality is still officially considered a mental illness. In the midst of these trying times is 16-year-old Jonathan Collins, a a bullied, anxious, asthmatic kid who, aside from an alcoholic father and his sympathetic neighbor and friend Starla, is completely alone. To cope, Jonathan escapes to the safe haven of his imagination, where his hero, David Bowie's Ziggy Stardust, and dead relatives, including his mother, guide him through the rough terrain of his life. In his alternate reality, Jonathan can be anything: a superhero, an astronaut, Ziggy Stardust himself, or completely normal and not a boy who likes other boys. When he completes his treatments, he will be normal, at least he hopes. But before that can happen, Webb, a Lakota boy, stumbles into his life. Webb is everything Jonathan wishes he could be: fearless, fearsome, and most importantly, not ashamed of being gay. Jonathan doesn't want to like brooding Webb, who has secrets of his own. Jonathan wants nothing more than to be fixed once and for all, but he's drawn to Webb anyway. Webb is the first person in the real world to see Jonathan completely and think he's perfect. Webb is a kind of escape Jonathan has never known. For this first time in his life, he may finally feel free enough to love and accept himself as he is. A poignant coming-of-age tale, Ziggy Stardust and Me heralds the arrival of a stunning and important new voice in YA. So I saw Ziggy Stardust and Me, and I said Ziggy Stardust is David Bowie and that is up my alley, but this storyline is totally up my alley too, because I love coming-of-age stories, and I love the LGBTQ plus rep in this as well, so I'm very excited. Along with those books, I'm also, BookNet Fest is coming up, and every year they do a book club. And so there's actually a couple books that they're going to be having for their book club, so I'm actually hoping that I'm going to be able to get to those as well. I've already ordered one of them, and I'm hoping it'll be here tomorrow so that I can try to get to that before BookNet Fest, which is actually coming up, I believe right after Memorial Day, or is it Labor Day? I can never, I'm always bad with that. I always keep getting those two crossed. But so there's two books for that as well. So the first book is A Danger to Herself and Others by Alyssa Shinmel. That one is kind of like a contemporary book. Hannah knows that there's been a mistake. She doesn't need to be institutionalized. What happened to her roommate at the summer program was an accident. As soon as the doctors and judge figure out that she isn't a danger to herself or others, she can go home and start her senior year. Those college applications aren't going to write themselves. Until then, she's determined to win over the staff and earn some privileges so she doesn't lose her mind to boredom. Then Lucy arrives. Lucy has her own baggage, and she's the perfect project to keep Hannah's focus off all she is missing at home. But Lucy may be the one person who can get Hannah to confront the secrets she's avoiding, the dangerous games that landed her in the confinement in the first place. So it's a very much geared towards mental health. And then there was also one middle grade book as well that I was very interested in. It was called Midsummer's Mayhem, and I'm not sure I'm going to get to that one. I'm going to read the first one first, and if I get to this one, that's fine. It's kind of like a contemporary fantasy retelling of Shakespeare's A Midnight Summer's Dream is how it's described. And I really love Shakespeare's A Midnight Summer's Dream, and it is considered a middle grade book. So I'm really kind of hoping I do get to that one, but if not, then that's fine too. I'm just going to try to get to one of them at least. I really just want to have a free reading month this month. I really wanted to participate in there's some really awesome readathons going on right now, Disney-a-thon and all that, but I honestly, I needed to have a free reading month, especially because I participated in 3 readathons and a read-along last month, and I completed all of them. So that's what I'm planning on reading in August, and I really hope I get to pretty much all of this because I am just so excited for all of this. And there's going to be a lot of new releases coming out in the next couple months that I'm going to try to be focusing on reading. So I'm trying to knock out some of the stuff that I've had on my TBR for quite a while and mix it up with some of the new stuff that I'm bringing in to my physical TBR, because my physical TBR, I'm not gonna lie, is absolutely ridiculous. I just have no shelf control. See what I did there? Okay, moving on from the corny joke. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys like this video. If you guys like this video, hit the little like, hit subscribe, and hit the little bell icon if you guys want to receive emails every time I post. I am also on Instagram, Twitter, Amazon, and Goodreads. Those links are linked in the description below, and I hope you guys will come and hang out with me. And as always, thank you guys so much for watching.